I don't know. I can imagine quite a bit.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Badbunker.
And I'm Kenton Larson, swallowing a croissant.
Thank you for the detail. Welcome back.
It was because I nearly choked on the first
Because
word.
I started the podcast at the wrong moment? Is that why?
No, I took an bite way too long into the theme for it to be reasonable, to be ready when it was over.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to you too. We're in the...
It's a new year.
It's a great time to be a teacher.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. The students are so energetic and enthusiastic and happy to be back.
They actually are.
They are. They seem to be very, very happy.
You're not being sarcastic.
No, I'm not.
No, I thought the same thing. This morning I went to class. They're buzzing. They're happy. I said, is this your first class of the day? They're like, no, we started at 8 a.m.
All right, but we are here to talk about Star Wars. I just finished telling my class about how a podcast has to stick to its niche and be true to its brand and not talk about things other than the thing they talk about. So we are going to talk about Star Wars today. It's been a while.
You were going to say, so they were going to talk about Star Trek.
Yes, today. Right. That's right. Oh, by the way, I'll run this by you just live on the show. Some friends of mine from CGOB, Brett McGarry and Jeff Braun, known as the Couch Potatoes. We've had Brett on the show before. I think we had him on Media Nerds. And they are doing a special concert at the concert hall with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, Star Trek versus Star Wars. So the idea is that they are going to introduce segments. They're going to play music from both franchises and kind of, I guess, showcase that kind of thing. So I thought we could have them on the show to talk about that.
Well, Star Wars music is better. Let's start with that. That's one of the ways I think Star Wars is undeniably better than Star Trek. I'm a Star Trek fan, though. But, I mean, I always thought Jerry Goldsmith's Star Trek theme, which was used for Next Generation as well as the movies, I thought it sounded like a Star Wars spinoff to me.
Although Star Trek came first. You talking about the original series theme or the ones for the movies?
The movies.
Yeah,
The Jerry Goldsmith movie theme. The theme from the original series is cheesy and wonderful. Wonderful.
That one, yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
There's some words to that, apparently. Did you know that? There are words. Google it. There's words that Gene Roddenberry wrote to that music.
Other than the mission statement?
Yes, that's right. There's lyrics to the Star Trek theme.
Beyond the rim of the starlight, my love is wandering in starlight.
Wow.
There you go.
Every year, here's a PR spoiler for anyone in PR class listening, and that is when we talk about mission statements, I usually call upon someone in class who I know to be a Star Wars fan. I say, come on up. I got a mission statement for you to read the class. And then they look at the slip of paper and they go, oh, no, because it's the Star Trek mission statement. And they go, so this year I think I know who it's going to be. And so I get them to come up to the front, and you can see the look on their face, and they go, space. The final frontier. And they don't want it as half-hearted.
See, and the thing is, I'm not the kind of fan who hates Star Trek. I like Star Trek. I grew up on it. I've watched every Star Trek series. I've probably seen every episode ever and every movie. And there's certainly a lot more content than there is for Star Wars, which is, probably why I love Star Wars more. It's we didn't get as much for a long time, so you had to kind of love what you had. It's fine, but there are people out there that really do feel strongly that Star Trek versus Star Wars is a thing, and they'll fight those angry nerds, those ones that get worked up about the stuff.
I think that was from back in the day when there's so few franchises that there was a choice between Star Trek and Star Wars,
right? And
people felt strongly about one or the other because that's all there really was. I remember, I've said on this podcast in the past, when I first went to see Star Trek: The Motion Picture, I remember thinking, this better not be good because I want Star Wars to win.
Well, then you got your wish.
Well, did I ever? And I remember walking out of the theater and going, well, at least Star Wars is safe. But then I recall. Alien came out, and that was actually good. And Terminator 2.
Other space type of movies. Yes, that's right.
That was the beginning of it's okay to like lots of different franchises. You don't have to just choose one. So those were good. And I also remember there was a movie with Sean Connery that isn't very good Was it called Outland?
Oh, yep.
Outland?
I remember that one, yep.
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
No.
I haven't seen it in years, but I didn't mind it when
I haven't seen it in years either, but I remember going to see that at the Met back in the day and going, hey, this one's pretty decent too. Except he had a shotgun. He didn't have a laser anything.
Right,
so
yes.
I remember it was like a little late in the game, and you're like, where's the laser? Come on. But there were lots. That's sort of the beginning of we can love all different kinds of franchises.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that Star Wars versus Star Trek is old. Is an old kind of trope for people our age as opposed to now. I don't think anybody cares.
I have, as always, we're going to start with a clickbaity headline in a segment.
Oh.
A segment I still can't figure out a name for, but I'm going to call it This Week in Star Wars Clickbait.
What? How? What are you talking about? Huh? What? Goodness gracious me.
That's a good name.
Okay. Here's the headline. This is straight from, brought to you by Flipboard, not a sponsor, but that's
They're full of Star Wars clickbait.
I get it, but it's not Flipboard's fault. It's the people putting it out. Here's the headline. The headline is, here's how Disney will release Star Wars movie after 2019.
Oh, that's interesting. Let's click. What does it say?
Spoiler alert, in the theater. It's the stupidest freaking article I've ever read. It's like, seriously, there was a bunch of them. Again, same thing with this media culture is that everybody picks up on the same thing and publishes an article about it, right?
Finds a new way.
Somebody interviewed Bob Iger about Disney Plus and whether or not somebody put forth the idea that they wouldn't release the Star Wars films in the theater, that they would just release them on Disney Plus. And no, that is not the case, because you can still, with a movie like Star Wars, you can still make a ton of money at the theater. And not everybody's going to get Disney Plus. That's you're not going to give that up. It's a stupid idea to begin with. But that headline, like most of the other headlines, said that in the headline. Like why they're not going to debut these Star Wars movies, although they are debuting the TV series. But that's a different thing. Those are TV series, right? They're not as high a budget, not as big of an event. I guess you could say.
TV storytelling is not the same.
It's not the same,
as
no.
we've learned as movie storytelling.
Yeah. So. Just a ridiculous. By the way, I'm going to shame the poster of it. Who is it that said this? Fatherly.com. I don't know what that is.
I see it on Flipboard a lot.
Fatherly for fathers? Is that what it's for?
I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
Do you have more there for clickbait?
No, I just do one. Just
I
one
saw
per
one.
week. We can only.
Can I just mention one I saw over the holidays?
Sure.
Just because it was the most ridiculous thing. It was Mark Hamill finds perfect way to shut down Star Wars trolls was the headline. I was like,
he does that every day.
I was like, yeah, what's this about? And I look at it, and it's basically he teased somebody. It wasn't
He
even
is
like
awesome on Twitter. He
yeah,
is so
but
good.
it wasn't even him shutting down a troll. It was him teasing somebody about Episode 9, like having fun with
Is that the
them.
thing where he said it's called Episode 9? Is that the one?
No.
We talked about that last time.
There was a different one
Okay.
where somebody said, what do you know about Episode 9? And his response was, I know everything about it. That's the end. That's the end of the tweet. Everything.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
I'm in it.
Yeah.
I'm in the movie.
Oh, wow. He sure shut down that troll.
Although, speaking of Mark Hamill tweets, there was an interesting one this week where somebody asked him it was like National Trivia Day or something. They asked him a little known fact that maybe most people wouldn't know about Star Wars. And what he said was that in the the final Death Star scene where they're attacking the Death Star and all the pilots are in the X-Wing, by the way, there was one X-Wing that they all got into for their turn to shoot. So there's that. That was kind of more common knowledge. But the thing he said is that none of the actors were wearing pants. They were all in their shorts because it was so hot. It was like a heat wave in England when they shot it, and it was so hot in the studio and hot in that outfit that they all kind of got in there. They're only wearing the top part of their uniform. They weren't wearing pants.
Oh, boy.
I want to see a photo from the set during a break of all those pilots sitting around, Porkins and Wedge and Luke and Biggs, all sitting around with no pants on.
That's why Red Leader couldn't eject. It was like he would rather die hitting the Death Star than eject without pants on.
How does that work in space anyway? How do you eject in space?
Well, they do say eject, but we've never seen somebody eject.
Because they're not wearing a spacesuit. They would die if they ejected.
There could be. I remember they made some lines of action figures and vehicles not in the movies. Those vehicles not in the movies, and one of them was like a little pod that looked like it could be like an ejected.
That's not how. I don't think that's how an X-wing is built. I really don't think that would be for X-wing. That would not be it.
It's kind of funny that we still have that because who says it? Somebody says eject.
Somebody says eject. Yeah.
And he goes, no, I can hold him up.
It's just something you say when you're like, it's like, I mean, we all know that George Lucas based that fight on old World War II, like, dog fighting footage. So that's something you would say to a pilot in a dogfight situation. But no.
By the way, we can write a clickbait headline for this, what we've just thought about, which is why X-Wing fighters couldn't possibly do what one character insists they must. Something like that. And then people click on it. No, that's the perfect one. And they even do it now. I noticed that the clickbait headlines I get a media roundup, and I can't actually remember the name of the organization, but they send a media roundup every day, and they're like, this actor who starred in many sitcoms died. And you're like, who died? So you have to click on everything. There's literally not a single headline that tells you what the actual news is.
That's awful.
It's like, here's your clickbait roundup.
The other worst, we're just ranting on this. The other worst thing is the listicles that go page by page. So you have to click through to each page.
Forget it.
So I don't bother.
It's over.
I don't bother because they're just looking for advertising impressions.
Yeah.
Do you know that we are in 2019? It is a new year. I'm sure you made lots of New Year's resolutions that you're going to stick to this year. Buy more Star Wars, buy less Star Wars figures.
I tweeted my resolution, and it was, what was it again? I actually saw someone, not even somebody I know, but someone over the break tweet something from the gym saying "booty game on" or something like that, or booty game yes or something. And so I tweeted, I have never once tweeted that from the gym, and in 2019 I won't as well.
Oh, I did see that. Yes, that's right.
That was my only resolution. Okay. I will continue to not do something that's irritating.
Well, according to Wired magazine, 2019 is going to be the year of Star Wars. Star Wars is going to come back. It's called Star Wars will return in full force in 2019. This is a piece on Wired.
Pun not intended.
I think it is very much intended. And that's, they're kind of basing it off of the idea that 2018 was not a good year for Star Wars. They had a lot of backlash. In early 2018, there was a lot of backlash over The Last Jedi, a lot of haters out there, a lot of trolls, a lot of the ugly side of fandom getting the spotlight as well. They had the end of Rebels, and Solo didn't do as well as everyone hoped it would. So I guess by those standards, they're saying 2018 was a bad year, although I think it was fine. It was a good year for us. We got to see Pablo and talk to Pablo about Star Wars.
We saw Pablo. I almost said mispronounced his name there. And we saw Solo.
We saw Solo. That was a great movie.
We loved Solo. I still love Solo. That to me revitalized my fandom for Star Wars, and most people who say they don't like it, in fact, I don't think they've even seen it. And I'm still meeting people who didn't even know it came out.
I got to tell a story actually on CGOB about it because there's a sports show that goes on Sundays when I work, and the host there, Cam Poitras, is also a big Star Wars fan. We talk about it off air. And he wanted me to share, he was doing kind of an end of the year top 10 moments in the sports thing. And my top moment in sports was when Pablo Hidalgo was watching the Jets playoff game from the red carpet of Solo, right? So I told that story on the show. And it was really, it's a great, like for me, it's my fandom of the Jets, it's my fandom of Star Wars coming together, my fandom of being a Winnipegger, and it was just kind of a great thing to see all this glitz and glamour and Hollywood stuff going on. Pablo's just there on his phone watching the Jets play Nashville.
I mentioned that to my students yesterday. Yeah. There's a traditional start of the semester assignment I give to the PR students just to show them what goes into an event plan, and I go, imagine honoring Pablo for his achievements at the alumni dinner. And then I'll reveal to them in the next class that, in fact, that happened. And
we finally did it.
Right. It actually happened.
We did not do the dinner, that part of it. We gave him an award, but we didn't do the dinner.
Right. And Greedo showed up, I remember.
Greedo, very tall, skinny Greedo.
Yeah. I wonder who that could have been.
I wonder. He's also sometimes a very tall, skinny Kylo Ren.
And who else was there? I only noticed the Greedo, but I didn't.
Oh, there's a bunch of the Mandalorian mercs,
right.
which is kind of a sort of like the 501st, and they're a international organization, but they have a local chapter here, and they all craft their own Mandalorian armor.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're all very thrilled about the new TV show, The Mandalorian, which is also coming out in 2019. And that's another reason that Wired gives that Star Wars is going to be 2019 is going to be the year of Star Wars. The Mandalorian. I don't know if the Oscar, what's his name? Not Oscar Isaac. The Diego Luna show is going to be premiering or not.
No, they say it's only shooting in October.
Okay, so it probably won't come out till 2020. Yeah. But also, of course, Episode 9 being the big thing at the end of the year that we're all waiting for. And you mentioned to me as we were coming in to record the podcast that, hey, we're getting crickets here. We're getting nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing from any, no teaser, no nothing, no title. What's going on?
But I think they're giving us a break because I think the general consensus was Solo came too quick after Last Jedi.
Yeah, but then they might. What if they go too far in the other direction?
It's possible.
Are they like? Okay, I think a movie per year was perfect. I really do. I think we had
in December.
In December, yeah,
because that was the habit forming behavior.
And that the mistake with Solo is that they released it too soon. It should have come out in December. It should be in theaters right now. Basically, it would have been great if it was in. What did it have to go against Aquaman? Come on, it would have killed Aquaman in the box office.
I think Aquaman is benefiting from no competition.
Exactly, that's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did you see it?
No,
Aquaman?
I have not seen it.
No, I haven't seen it either. I mean, I guess. Well, we live in an era where Bohemian Rhapsody won Best Picture at the Golden Globes, and that, by the way, was the movie that Bryan Singer was removed from.
And he still thanked everybody,
right? And well, no, he wasn't there. I don't think.
But he went on Instagram and thanked people.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, well there you go.
On his own.
There you go.
Not mentioned in any thank you speeches. Nothing.
A film that basically was savaged by critics. Except everyone kind of agrees that the last scene is good. I haven't actually seen it yet.
No, I know. That's what everybody says. The last recreation of the Live Aid concert is amazing.
But we almost
do so well.
I mean, I think we made the transition where we're living in a world basing what's good based on results and not actual content, because I like Solo quite a bit, and because it did less well than other Star Wars movies, we're all led to believe it's no good, which isn't the case.
Conversely, I saw Venom. I rented it on demand. And it's done pretty well, better than anyone expected.
It did very well.
And it's an awful movie. It's horrible.
I believe it.
It's really, really bad. And I was just stunned that it actually did well in the theater. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot of, it's not always content based. Although these days it should be with Rotten Tomatoes. It should be, but I think people are now more skeptical about Rotten Tomatoes, and they would rather judge for themselves. I don't know why.
It's almost, films are critic proof. People just decide that the time is right to see them. And I think Bohemian Rhapsody, like, I'm a huge Queen fan, but I watch those trailers, and there's a couple scenes they released too on iTunes, and I've watched them, and it's just beyond dumb. The way, like, even the scenes they released aren't that good, and including, you know, things like clap your hands together and like, oh, hey, we wrote We Will Rock You. It's that easy. We just clap your hands and there's We Will Rock You. Hey, could you play me 3 notes on the bass? Hey, you just wrote another One Bites the Dust. Like, it's like that. Everything looks like it could not have happened in the way the film shows
that was
it
most
happened.
of the critical. And not to get too far on the Queen story, but most people said that, you know, what's his face, Borat, Sacha Baron Cohen was originally supposed to play Freddie Mercury, but he wanted to make a more gritty, realistic biopic, and they didn't want to do that.
Right.
They wanted to be more fluffy, and so it doesn't really get into a lot of the dirty details about Freddie Mercury, and not that there's a ton, but there's some stuff there. I mean, it was the 80s and rock and roll. I'm sure there were drugs. I'm sure there was lots of sex and that kind of stuff.
Well, that's another criticism of the film is that it glosses over all of that. Right. But I think Star Wars is in a boat where if they, like, Force Awakens was box office success, and people did equate that with top quality, but whereas
The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi was also box office success.
Yeah,
but faced more criticism from fans more than anything. It wasn't the critics. It got fairly well rated. I don't know. Actually, I'll look up its Rotten Tomatoes score. But I think that I don't know. I don't know what it is. Sorry, we're pausing for a second.
Well, no, there's another thing about the online world, and that is certain things become Trump versus Hillary, and it cannot be stopped. And they've already said that the Russian disinformation agency,
that was part of it. Yeah,
that was part of it.
Yeah,
they targeted the election, and they targeted Star Wars.
But that being said, I know people, and actually I know people who want to come on this podcast, and I will bring them on when we find a time. Who hate The Last Jedi.
Oh, sure.
So I know people in real life who don't like that film. So
sure.
It's not as intangible as some of that stuff they're saying about online. Anyway, back to 2019, year of Star Wars, nothing coming out. So we've already kind of said this, but let's talk a little bit more about how you think that's going to roll out advertising marketing for the final episode. What are we going to see first?
Super Bowl.
But we're going to see a title reveal. We're going to see a trailer.
Both
at the same time. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, because that way, if you give us a title at the same time as you give us a teaser, then you don't have to show much in the teaser.
Okay.
You know, like you can show like a shadow. You can show you can show Yoda going, "I'm back" or whatever. You can show whatever you want, and then as long as there's a title, then there's all the talking points you need.
Unbelievable. The Last Jedi has a 91% tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes. That's critics. 45% audience score.
Bizarre.
Like and it's probably like for a movie like Venom, it's probably flipped.
Never
You know what I mean?
before for a Star Wars movie have we seen something like that. I don't think.
Yeah, I know. So, I agree. I think we're going to see a Super Bowl ad. It's going to be pretty exciting. Don't know what else to. I mean, there's all kinds of things going.
No American Super Bowl ads in Canada, by the way.
Who cares?
Thanks,
We'll watch
thanks,
online.
Trump.
Trump.
But
is that Trump or is that Trudeau?
Both.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, fellas, for your hard work.
We got 1 year of it.
Yeah.
1 year only.
Depriving
You know what?
us.
I don't mind that. I think it's fine. Who cares? We can see them all online anyway.
Yeah,
I'm not going to watch the football game. I don't care about the football game.
No, neither do I.
So we're going to watch them. We'll just go on USA Today and rate them like we do every year.
So my standpoint is, if it doesn't matter, and we all agree it doesn't, then show them.
But that takes away, there are people who care about the football game and who will watch it live, and there are Canadian advertisers that want to get in there. Pizza Hotline has to get their Super Bowl ad
That's
in
the
there.
problem.
Well, that's what it is. That's
Sleep
why.
Center and Dufresne, all fighting each other,
These are local brands that
Yeah.
you've never heard of if you're not from Winnipeg.
and that's the fun.
All right.
That's
So
where the fun begins.
other things happening in 2019, the Disneyland parks, Star Wars Land opens up in Disneyland, and then later on in the year in Disney World, along with the hotel, the Galaxy Edge, it's called. We've had lots of previews on it, lots of kind of sneak peeks and that kind of stuff. I'm hoping to get out there this year. I really am, either in the summertime or whenever it gets over the holidays. But I would really like to go out and see it, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
What if the walls are around it by then?
Wall's on the other side of America, not us.
Oh! I thought.
By the way,
I thought he was building it around Disney World.
anybody wants to see what that wall would look like, you should watch the film Monsters. Because they actually build a wall on the Mexico border for the movie.
Really?
Yeah. If I'm going to tie it back to Star Wars, it was the first film by Gareth Edwards. This film is about aliens or something invading. They invade Mexico. They're only in Mexico, and they build a giant wall. And there's a shot of this giant wall on the border that to keep the monsters out. So there's like, symbolism and stuff going on there. I think although this is years ago. This is way before Donald Trump. Donald Trump probably saw that movie and thought, yeah, that's a good idea. So anyway, we have the new theme parks coming in, and by the way, Disney's increasing the prices at its parks in anticipation of more people coming there. So it's gone from right now $135 for a 1-day pass, which is more than it was when I was there. So maybe they raise them every year. I think it was around $100, but I did the multi-day, so it's cheaper if you buy a multi-day pass. From $135 to $149, and then there's certain value dates. So I guess the cheapest you can get it at certain times of year, which is obviously going to be at lower times, 97 up to 104. So not so bad on that end of it, but on the higher end of it, it's going to be they're jacking up the prices ahead of the Star Wars, which I guess who can blame them?
Well, I was thinking about this the other day. I was last in Disney World in 1976, pre-Star Wars coming out the first time.
Okay.
When I was in grade 4, and I have photos of the event and of me posing with Robin Hood mascot. And it was the price of admission, I think, was the same as a movie. It was cheap.
Back then they would have done it by tickets for rides. Like I don't think they did the all-inclusive.
No.
Like right now you pay one fee, get it, you can go whenever you want.
The idea of that was not.
No, you bought a book of tickets and you used like 3.
Right.
It's like when you go to a fair here in a local fair, 3 tickets gets you on this ride, 4 tickets gets you on this ride. That's how it worked back then. So, and it was like $10 for a big book of tickets. It was so cheap back then.
Yeah, it was super cheap.
Yeah. I also saw another article about the Millennium Falcon ride, and they said it's going to be a lot like the current Star Tours ride, which I don't know if they're getting rid of or not.
They must be getting rid of it.
They must be. I guess so. That's in Hollywood Studios.
Because it'll look crappy by comparison.
Well, I thought it was pretty cool, but all the stuff right now, all the Star Wars stuff is kind of centered in Hollywood Studios because it's a Hollywood film franchise. So that's where they did they have a giant AT-AT there. They've got a speeder you can get on and pretend you're riding a speeder. bike like in Endor, and they have a couple other things, but they also had the Jedi Academy where they get up there and they get all these kids. My kids didn't get in on time, otherwise they would have done it. You get there, you get your own lightsaber, you follow along with the Master, and then Darth Vader shows up, and it's really good. It's fun. It's fun. We watched it. It was so fun. So that kind of stuff, that'll all move to this Galaxy's Edge park. And I imagine they're still going to have the character spots similar to where you want to go meet Mickey or Donald Duck or any of those characters. Same thing with Darth Vader or Kylo Ren. Or
I didn't even know that they'd introduced that until you told me. That
it's
a character spot where they are promised to be there for a certain amount of time and you line up.
Yes,
right?
you line up for it. I do think they'll
pay for it?
No, it doesn't cost. I don't think it costs money. I don't think it does. I think if you want to take a photo, you can, but they also provide a photo service, so you can pay for a photo through their thing, or you can just do your own.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure. But the other thing is that I think what they'll do early on is a lot more, because they used to actually have the characters walking around more in the parks.
That's what it was all about. It was a happenstance.
Yeah, you just kept wandering around and you run into Tigger or somebody else, right? So I think that will be happening early on, but I think they'll phase that out in the first year, and then it'll be character spots for the most part. You get to see them. I already said this a long time ago. It's like they have a bodyguard. It's like they're walking around with a little entourage. Like I saw Woody from Toy Story walking around with like 3 staff around him to make sure he gets, probably because the guy can't see in his freaking suit. But he's walking from like the castle to his spot and then back and all that other stuff. So it's got they have a little security detail around the characters. So we'll get to see that.
In my photo with the Robin Hood Fox character, behind him is Donald Duck with his pants, no pants.
Yeah, right.
Donald Duck.
Speaking of no pants, he must have flown an X-Wing.
He must have been an X-Wing pilot. And in front of, there's a little child photobombing my photo. But there is not a staff member to be seen anywhere. So I think back in the day, I think the people dressed up in the costumes had to go it alone. They had to be their own security.
Well, that was it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But these days, of course, they would be stopped every 2 seconds for selfies and all that other stuff. So that this is it's necessary in order to achieve like some sort of order there.
And it also looks bad if you have the person dressed as a mascot who also has to defend themselves against somebody. Like, there was the Winnipeg Jets game at Chicago. Somebody attacked the mascot. Did you see that?
Is this first generation or new generation?
New.
Oh,
this was like a couple months ago.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, I did not hear about that.
And I thought, oh no, what Winnipeg fan attacked the Chicago? And there was video of it, and it was bad. It was basically like the mascot fighting with the fan.
Oh wow!
Trying to push the fan off him. But it actually turned out, I thought, oh god, it's going to be some idiot from Winnipeg, and we're going to have to hear all about it. And it was like strangely quiet, and I think NBC covered it, and they were like, Chicago was playing the Winnipeg Jets, but they didn't say who the fan was. And in the video, it looked like it was actually a Chicago fan that attacked the mascot.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's what happened.
Well, probably because the mascot was taunting him, as they do. That's their job, right?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it was, unless it was a Winnipeg Jets fan who dressed, let's start a conspiracy. They're dressed like a Chicago fan.
That's right. John Boyega has a long-standing rumor, seemingly confirmed by John Boyega, is that there's about a year difference. A year goes by between the episodes 8 and 9, so not a huge surprise. I don't care. I mean, that seems pretty normal. I think having the more unusual step was to have episode 8 take place immediately after episode 7. That doesn't happen in Star Wars usually. There's usually some sort of break between.
I would also say that accounted for some of the issues that people saw with the film, I think, because there's a lot that happens in that movie that, in light of where we left off in episode 7, seems a little fast.
Yeah,
with what we're seeing, but I like the expanse of the Star Wars universe, and I like how the first trilogy, like, not everything has to be like the first trilogy.
No, exactly.
Course,
yeah,
but I sort of like that, not knowing. I kind of like sort of seeing how are things going to be different in this movie, even to start with. And I even remember Return of the Jedi seeing C-3PO and R2-D2 on Tatooine for the first time in that movie, and I remember going, "Oh, wait a sec, that's right. They got to go see. They're actually gonna make a heist out of this Han Solo and Carbonite." Like, I remember sort of being surprised.
Yeah, it's kind of like an Ocean's 11 kind of thing, right? Yeah. Everyone does their part.
Right. So I kind of like that. I kind of like the fun involved in the not knowing, although this being the modern era, we probably will know how the film is going to start.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Any new toys, by the way? Anything new on the toy front for you?
What's more alarming than new toys is seeing the new toys that last came out not selling. And
maybe that's why we're not seeing new toys.
That appears to be the case in the places I frequent. I go and look, and you cannot sell that Grand Moff Tarkin 6-inch figure for the life of you, apparently, because it's been sitting there forever.
So you think they're oversaturating the market with these things? Like there's too much of it?
I think there wasn't a huge demand on the figures after Solo.
Wow.
I think it's that simple because they've got Grand Moff Tarkin's an original character, of course, but he's also in Rogue One.
Yeah.
But next to him, they've got all the new Solo figures, basically, all of them. They have the Beckett's there. Like anything you want is a 6-inch figure just sitting there. And so it's lumped in with all of those, and it's just, they do not appear to be moving. Like, and even I, like as a collector, have not bought them. But hey, if the price is right, if the sale starts,
you wait for them to get marked down.
Well, you never know. Like
Yeah.
I ended up seeing. Ultimately, I saw they were selling Rey on the speeder. The 6-inch.
I saw that one, yeah.
And it was cool. It was cool, but it was $80 when
Yeah.
it came out. And ultimately, I saw it for $23. I think is where it bottomed out. And it was like, that's a pretty massive price cut. So I think there's deals to be had, but there aren't really many figures that are coming out into the marketplace at this point.
Well, again, we're going to have a kind of a long period, the longest in this new era of Star Wars between films. So,
well, we'll get our Force Friday, I suppose, in September.
Yeah, in September. Yeah, they'll do that. And I don't know what kind of merchandise they're going to come out with as far as this Mandalorian show goes, or if they're going to have toys and stuff based on that. It's all kind of in the future, like, how is this Disney streaming service going to roll out? Where are we going to be able to get it? It's going to be an issue because people are so used to Netflix. I think that's going to be an issue for Disney. People seem resistant to want to sign up for other streaming services. Like, you have not signed up for Amazon Prime.
Oh, I'm so close though.
But
It's funny that you bring that up because I'm on the cusp of doing it.
Okay,
I'm so close.
Well, because you don't order as much as you used to from Amazon, but you do order stuff from Amazon sometimes.
Yep.
There are great shows that are worth watching on that streaming service. So, but you are somewhat resistant to getting something other than Netflix.
Part of it is a lack of information from Amazon Canada on what you get. Like, there is Amazon Prime. And then there's Amazon Video.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, no, you're right. The branding is off.
Right.
Sure.
So the branding, it's a little confusing, and it's also confusing. Like, the other thing I don't want to do is pay for something where Canadians get ripped off, but you've already told me that it's the full slate of Amazon
as far
movies.
as I can tell, I get everything.
Yeah, so I'm on the cusp of it. I wouldn't say like I'm closer than I'm closer than I've ever been, but we are right now in the Oscars lead-in. And so this is when I know I'm going to binge watch movies like endlessly.
And they're going to be on Amazon Prime for sure.
But leading up until the Oscars, that's what I will bide my time doing.
Right.
So the question is, where will those be? Wherever those are is where I'll be for the next month and a half.
Okay.
When are the Oscars? February?
Yeah, beginning of February. End of February. Sorry, end of February.
Think Solo will have be nominated?
Well, maybe
nominated?
Special effects. Maybe some kind of special effects.
It'd be
Usually
nice.
makeup special effects or maybe score. I don't know. It'd be nice to see John Williams get another Oscar before he's done, but
I wouldn't hold my breath on that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but at the score, I mean, he wrote the song, but not the score.
Now, did he win anything for The Phantom Menace?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Maybe have been nominated, but to me, and I mean, I would say also the Force Awakens, some of those themes like Rey's theme and those like new stuff was really good.
Yeah,
so
it's a
I
good
would say,
soundtrack.
I think that certainly he deserved a nomination for that kind of work. Maybe not so much for Solo because he didn't do a lot of that.
He
Solo.
only did one song.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it was someone else.
Yeah.
Whose name I forget. Pardon me.
By the way, Solo is coming to Netflix next week.
Yeah.
So anybody who has not watched it yet, this is your chance. And just wait. I predict we're going to see a lot of people saying, "Hey, this isn't bad.
It's better than I thought.
What's going on? Why wasn't this?" And that's going to be the conversation next week around Star Wars. You mark my words. People are going to watch it and go, "Yeah, this is pretty good."
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind this at all. So,
No.
it just pisses me off that it's just viewed so negatively right now.
Right,
You know?
and as a box office disaster.
When it really wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
It still made hundreds of millions of dollars.
It earned less than other Star Wars movies. It's like
Every movie earns less than other Star Wars movies.
Right, and I always say sometimes when you tweet something about the Beatles, people are like, "Well, the White Album isn't as good as blah, 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 blah." And you're like, "Sure, you can compare Beatles to Beatles, and some of it'll be better Beatles than other Beatles, but really the Beatles are the best band, And if you're splitting hairs by comparing it to itself, then you like Get a Life kind of thing.
Yeah.
And to me, Star Wars is the same thing. Like Get a Life. It's all been successful. You're comparing Solo to the most successful films ever made.
Yes.
So
right.
of course it's gonna suffer.
And we knew it was going to happen because of the saturation of content. The more content there is, the greater chance that it's not going to do as well. And so that's what it is.
And
it's not that it's a low quality film. It's just there's a lot of it out there and there's more competition.
And the frequency of Star Wars in that 6-month period that we had for Last Jedi and then Solo, it was too much Star Wars. They overfed a hungry audience for Star Wars, and now we just need to get hungry again. That's what it's all about.
We did fast for a while. Okay, before we go, I want one more thing I wanted to talk about. I meant to do this weeks ago, but just didn't have time. And I fell down this rabbit hole a while back, and I actually talked about it on our Facebook page, Facebook group, rather. If you're not part of our Facebook group, you can join by just searching Star Wars Nerds on Facebook, and you can find us. And we had some good conversations about it. I know you don't really use Facebook, so you probably didn't see it. But I'm going to play a song for you, and I want you to see if you can tell me what it is. It's obviously Star Wars. You can tell by the sound effects, but I just want you to see if you remember this.
Okay.
Stepping softly in a danger zone. No weapon in my hand. It's just this phrase designed by man. Got me trouble again. Trouble again. Put my life in jeopardy. In the surface of my brain, I wouldn't care, but it's a dangerous affair. 'Cause I'm in trouble again. Trouble again.
Ooh.
You know what that is?
I thought I did it at the beginning. Now I don't.
Oh, really? What? Take a guess.
Well, I thought in the beginning, when I first heard the music, it sounded to me like a mashup of Kenner commercials, and that's what I thought this was going to be. And then when the song started, I was like, oh, wait a sec. It sounds 80s.
Do you recognize the singer at all?
I was trying
Okay,
to.
I'll give you a hint, and maybe people listening already know what this is. The singer Stuart Copeland.
Oh, Stuart Copeland. He had a band called Clark Kent.
I don't know if that's it, but this is the theme song for the Droids cartoon from the 80s.
Oh,
so this is a very short-lived cartoon series. It's on YouTube, by the way. You can watch all the episodes. They're only like 15 episodes or something. I think it was just one season, but they did these spin-off series after Return. This is like the only thing that was out for Star Wars for a long time. After Return of the Jedi, in I think 85, they launched this, and they launched an Ewoks, and the Ewoks theme was, they're the Ewoks. Not as good of a song, but I loved this show, and so I remembered it. I saw a cover of this song performed by the Cybertronic Spree, which is kind of a nerdy rock band that does covers of these kinds of songs, and they also dress up like Transformers. And I just went, wow, I totally forgot about this cartoon, found it on YouTube, watched a couple episodes. It is pretty good.
Yeah, I watched the occasional episode back in the day, and for a brief period of time, I've got all the classic Star Wars figures. For a brief period of time, I thought, maybe I'll buy those Droids figures.
Those would probably be worth something these days.
Well, that's the problem. The problem is, and I sort of got knowledgeable before I fell into that rabbit hole, because there was a couple of figures that were made in very short supply. And if you can find one of those, it's thousands of dollars kind of thing. I was like, I don't really need those. I did see the Droids era R2-D2 and C-3PO once at one of the collectible stores. And I was like, they're selling them each loose and not in great condition for $200 each.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that's for
holy crap.
But of course, the two main figures are and they're cool cartoonized versions.
The style is really neat. I like that style. It's actually, if you look at the art style, it's produced by Nelvana, who actually also did the Boba Fett cartoon in the holiday special, by the way. But it's not it's not that same style. The Boba Fett cartoon is more along the lines of like Aeon Flux or something. Like it's kind of this weird artsy style. This is different, but it's more in the style of, I want to say, the real Ghostbusters. If you remember that cartoon.
That's right.
Similar, and actually similar looks. I think one of the characters in the first couple episodes they get. So this is by the way, if you haven't seen this, is the story of C-3PO and R2-D2. It takes place 15 years before A New Hope. So this is after Revenge of the Sith, but we hadn't gotten Revenge of the Sith yet, so there was no mention of that. But it takes place 15 years before they become Luke's droids. And so they start off, and it's very, very derivative of the original film. So they start off on this desert planet, very much like Tatooine, but it's not Tatooine. They get, they kind of find new owners in these two speeder racer guys. And one of them looks a lot like Rey from the last Ghostbusters, or the real Ghostbusters. I think that pretty much they use the same character design, just change the hair, and it looks a lot like Rey. So I think there's that little bit of that going on, reusing cells and reusing designs. But it's solid. It gives you this view of the Star Wars universe that we just didn't have back then, right? They go everywhere. They change owners several times over the course of the show, and we get to see different planets, and we get to see like all kinds of things, like the Bunta Eve speed race, which is in that.
That's right.
It's not something that they just made up for the Phantom Menace. It is in this. It was a big pod race. It's a big speeder race. So that stuff is in this, and it's kind of a neat look into that universe at that time.
Yeah, it actually gives a shout out to things that will eventually appear in the Star Wars
Now, this
universe.
is not officially canon,
no,
right? As far as it's concerned, but it was a licensed Lucasfilm. And it was pretty much the closest thing to the Clone Wars TV show that we got now. But back then, when they never thought of tying it all together. Right. It also predates the extended universe.
And I think that might have been one of the first hints that Star Wars is for kids, like one of the first real attempts to capture a child market as opposed to sort of the teenager, which it had been
or like young adult kind of
right,
like
exactly,
early 20s.
Right.
And again, I watched it regularly as a kid. They were back to back, Droids and Ewoks, and I would watch them both, and that was like part of my Saturday morning cartoon lineup, and it was really good. Although I did not like the Ewoks as much. The Ewoks was not as they stayed on Endor. They didn't go anywhere. That was my issue with it. Certainly it's interesting, but I don't know. It was still Star Wars, so I liked it, but it was not as good as Droids, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that song is so catchy, man. It's so catchy.
And it is. And you know what? Stuart Copeland had a hit with his band, Clark Kent. I can't think of the name of it. It's on every...
That's cool that they had a band named after Superman.
Right, exactly. Oh, he spelt it. I think he had to spell it with...
a different letter?
2 Ks, I think, is how he spelt it. And it's on a lot of 80s samplers. I have it. I just can't remember the name of the song right now. And that was the closest he came to having a hit, other than with the Police.
Yeah, okay.
And the fact that he sang it, which is also what made it kind of cool. It's like, that drummer can actually sing, because you never saw him sing with the Police. So
exactly.
That's great. So he's got the Star Wars connection.
A little throwback for this. We'll try to do that as much as we can now. See if we can throw back to earlier versions of Star Wars and talk about that a little bit, because I know that there's not a ton. We're not getting a ton of information right now. We will get eventually, but for now, we're just going to kind of spin our wheels, so to speak, as far as Star Wars goes, and try and make an interesting podcast.
Well, we could always invite Cheyenne on our podcast, our student Cheyenne, to talk about her love of Ewoks.
That's
films.
right.
Yeah,
Caravan of Courage was her entry into the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, that's right. So she had nowhere to go but up.
Exactly. That's right. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vadewonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you on the ass.
Now I am the master.
I'm taking an awful risk, Vader. This had better work.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
That's no moon.
Now I